Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences, Hyderabad. There's little change. I'll be talking about the case report later. Before that, I would like to speak on donor hepatectomy, how to increase the safety of donor hepatectomy. And at the outset, I would like to thank Prime Hospital and Dr. Vinod for giving me opportunity and express my views on donor hepatectomy. Donor hepatectomy, actually, as everyone has, the previous speakers have talked about the transplant, kidney and pancreas. There is a lot of talk about the cadaveric transplant and the DCD. DCD, unfortunately, is not been legalized in India, whereas cadaveric has been legalized, but due to some emotional sentiments, there is less organ donation. So the most important option left with us is a living donor liver transplant. It has its own advantages, like it frees patient from the waiting list. It helps us in optimizing the patient for transplant, as we can do it electively by doing a good workup. And also it helps us in thoroughly evaluating the donor, know what are the good and bad things with them. And it also decreases the cold ischemic and warm ischemic time. And it also helps in increasing the people who are being subjected for the transplant. As of now in India, we are doing around 2,500 transplant a year, but to achieve the target which is set out there is around more than 2,000 transplant a year. And I don't think so the cadaveric transplant can help us to achieve that. So living donor stands true. And also, it's helpful for the patient, those who have tumor, where waiting list may lead to increase in the size, or a rare blood group where we may not get a compatible cadaver with us. Disadvantage, definitely a procedure has a disadvantage, like there is a risk. A perfectly healthy volunteer has been forced to undergo a surgery, which is considered to be one of the major surgeries in the medical fraternity. And the most important thing is, it firstly violates the basic law of medicine, primum non nocere, where we take an oath telling that we will not damage to a normal person, and here we are going ahead with a surgery on a normal healthy volunteer. Mortality rates of a left lateral segmentectomy or a left lobe, which is usually used for a pediatric, and nowadays people from Taiwan are coming with a lot of studies used in the adult, where they say that the mortality rate is less than 0.01%, and whereas right lobe it is 0.4 to 0.5%, and morbidity of procedure as of now reported is around 10%. The other disadvantage is recipient risk. It's technically more complex than a whole organ. There are possibility of small size syndrome, and the complications of biliary complications are increasing with the partial graft, and morbidity for a donor hepatectomy is around 10%. And the most important thing is, this requires a team of two well-qualified and well-trained surgeons who are highly experienced in this procedure, with a painstaking procedure for around more than 12 to 14 hours. How we go about donor selection? To minimize the risk with the donor, we preferably take the donor between the age of 18 to 15 years, who are willing to donate after understanding the nature of the procedure, the risk involved in it, and also we take care that the consent gives the spouse gives the consent for the procedure, and the BMI is less than 30. They are blood group compatible with no comorbidities. We do a phase selection procedure where we go ahead with a basic biochemical test and an ultrasound to see whether they are being screened properly, and can we reject them at that level so that we can decrease the cost. We do the medical and psychological assessment, then do an ultrasound abdomen to rule out the fatty liver. If there is any evidence of grade 2 or more fatty liver, we try to avoid such donor. Then after the first phase has been passed off and it is a compatible donor with a basic profile being matching, then we go ahead with the radiologic imaging, which is basically a roadmap for surgical planning. We do a CT triphasic liver scan and MRCP. In CT scan, we look at the anatomy, arterial anatomy, see whether it is suitable for donation or not, see for the portal vein, whether there is any abnormality in it, and then see for the venous drainage at the same time. Also, we go for a volumetric calculation, and where we see that whether we can take out the right lobe, left lobe, and is the volume sufficient for the recipient. At the same time, remnant is also optimum for the donor. There are few conditions where we would like to go ahead with the liver biopsy, like those who have a significant history of alcohol use, or imaging studies as suggestive of steatosis, that is particularly on the CT scan, depending on LAI or MRI suggestive of a fat presence between 5 to 10%, or those who have history of hyperlipidemia, or those who are obese. There are certain contraindications to these procedures, like those who are incompatible, or those who are hepatitis or HIV positive, those who have excessive alcohol or a BMI more than 30. And here you can see on the right side there is an anatomy which may not permit us to go ahead with the donor hepatectomy. In such cases, we avoid like joining of the anterior or the posterior sectoral vein from the right side to the left. Once the donor selection has been done based on his screening, imaging, biochemistry and imaging, we go ahead with the counseling. We do explain them the proper procedure, risk explanation, and we give them detailed outline of the program, what we are going to plan, and possible complication which they are likely to face, and the mortality whichever has been reported in the literature and in our hands too. Preoperative optimization by asking them to be on the fat-free diet and a high-protein diet, and a psychological counseling by a psychologist as well as a consultation with a psychiatrist. Intraoperatively, we take care that we avoid the graft with minimal handling of the graft, then avoid Pringle manure. We do a hepatectomy without using any Pringle manure. Hilar dissection, we prefer to do it with the quarter setting of around 20, 25, or even less than that. Meticulous handling of the bile duct. Just before the division, after completion of the hepatectomy, we divide the bile duct, and we try to handle it meticulously. Here there is a short video about a donor hepatectomy. We are mobilizing the right triangular ligament and trying to expose the IVC. After this right triangular ligament is divided and the phrenic veins are ligated, we try to mobilize the right lobe and the caudate lobe from the IVC, and then we loop the right hepatic vein at this stage. And then after the looping of the right hepatic vein, we go ahead for the hilar dissection. Here the cholecystectomy has been already done. Before doing a cholecystectomy, we take care that we put a cannula into the cystic duct, do a cholangiogram and clip it, and locate the tentative area for transection. This is the splenic artery which has been dissected and is being looped. After right hepatic artery. After looping the right hepatic artery, we are trying to mobilize the right portal vein, and we will take control of the right portal vein. Once the right portal vein and right hepatic artery control has been taken, then we will do a partial occlusion to make the line of demarcation. I'm sorry, here we are not able to appreciate the line of demarcation well, but after appreciating the line of demarcation, then again we re-release the hepatic artery bulldog as well as the portal vein and proceed with the parenchymal transection. Parenchymal transection is done using the CUSA, and the rough mark for the parenchymal transection is in the beginning we follow the segment 5 vein, and then which later merges towards the middle hepatic vein. These are our CUSA settings during the surgery. This is the monitor showing us the maintaining the pressure in the range of around 110 and CVP of around 2. During surgery, whenever we encounter any issue with the hepatic veins, we take care that we inform our anesthetist and make the head low to avoid the embolism. Here we are able to see the division of the middle hepatic vein. Just when complete parenchymal transection is done, we again do a cholangiogram and mark the area where we want to divide the bile duct. And we divide the bile duct meticulously, taking care and in between probing it using a probe so that we avoid injury to the left duct and leave appropriate stumps so that the future complications are also avoided. Post-operative protocol, we start all patients on the N-acetylcysteine infusion. We give perioperative antibiotics of around 3 doses. We do complete blood picture, arterial blood gas analysis, renal function and liver function test on the eve of surgery, and then based on our protocol of doing on day 1, day 2, and day 3. We start mobilization on day 1 and orals on day 1. So far, we have done around 158 living donor liver transplants, or maybe I was involved in these. More numbers have been done. Right lobe with middle hepatic vein graft in 43, right lobe without middle vein graft in 57. Complication till date we have encountered mainly are pulmonary complications, which are seen in the immediate postoperative period, and bile leak. Bile leak 6.6%. This is done. It includes both. We do as a matter of protocol on 14th day HEDA scan to see whether there is any significant bile leak. It includes that as well as clinically significant bile leak. So at the conclusion, I would like to say that living donor liver transplant is a better option in a country where there is a sparse organ donation. With increasing experience, mortality is becoming negligible and morbidity is also approaching now single digit. I would like to thank these 3 centers where had been work for the hepatobiliary and pancreatic surgery in India. I would like to share this brief case report of our post-liver transplant mucormycosis, which has, he was a 60-year-old gentleman who had no medical comorbidities, alcoholic liver disease with abstinence of 6 months and MEL score of 22 and child C. He underwent living donor liver transplant. He did absolutely well. On day 3, he was out of ICU, off all the infusions. But on post-operative day 9, he developed coffee ground vomitus, which was actually scared us. And immediately we rushed him for endoscopy. And for our surprise, it was a blackish discoloration which was seen over there. And immediately we did a microscopic examination which showed there is evidence of fungal infestation. And he was started on amphotericin B. And as it was a mucormycosis which was limited to the gastroesophageal junction, we planned him for an exploration, an emergency exploration. On exploration, we are able to see, this is the graft with the cut surface seen over there, and this is the conduit of the middle hepatic vein used. And on-table enteroscopy was seen to see the mark of demarcation to decide basically the location from where we would like to resect the stomach so that we can take care of the mucormycosis. So involvement of something like this where part of the esophagus and the stomach was involved. So we went ahead with the resection of a proximal gastrectomy and then anastomosis between esophagus and stomach. Postoperatively, we can see the gastric tube with a remnant stomach, which is oversewn, and the cut surface of the liver. This is the transplanted liver, which was absolutely well. And just before closure, we did a Doppler to confirm that we have not disturbed any arterial flow or the venous flow to the liver in handling. This is the cut open specimen which is showing mucormycosis, the black area, and the G junction where it was normal and the part of the normal stomach. Ryle's tube was removed on day 5. Feeding jejunostomy was started on day 2 for this patient and he was discharged by 8th day. And follow-up endoscopy, there was no evidence of residual disease. He was treated with amphotericin B, lyophilized, and a posaconazole for 21 days. And here we had on the follow-up doing well with clips, alternate clip removed. This was the histopathological appearance of the specimen which showed there is evidence of an ulcer with microscopy showing fungal hyphae in the east and the past positive as well as on the methylene silver stain, there was evidence of hyphae. So something about mucormycosis. GI mucormycosis is very rare, usually reported after the solid organ transplant. Mortality rate are very high as 85%, and the most common site is stomach. There are only few reports of a successfully treated case of gastric mucor. Successful treatment of a mucor requires 4 steps. That is true for any mucor anywhere in the body. Early diagnosis, reversal of underlying predisposing risk factor, surgical debridement where applicable, and prompt antifungal therapy. Thank you.